Hello everyone, myself Siddharth Patel, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science and Public Administration from the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. In this video, we are going to learn about what is foreign policy. I think you have heard foreign policy word many a time in newspaper or in the TV or on the social media. So let us begin that what is foreign policy. Foreign policy can be defined as a set of policy adopted by a state with the other state and non-state actor. Now here I have told you about that the foreign policy is adopted by a state with the other state. Now what does it mean? Suppose take an example how India is interacting with China. It is the foreign policy of India. Now here I have also explained a word or I have also told a word non-state actor. Then what is non-state actor? Here the non-state actor means terrorism, like India has to also deal with the various terrorist organization. India has also deal with the various environmental issues. So these comes under the non-state actors, which aims to protect and promote the national interest of the state. So here comes another important term, that is national interest of the state. Now what is the national interest? I think you have heard the word interest. Okay? I will do that thing because it suits my interest. I will do that thing because it suits his interest. Okay? So here India will adopt a certain sets of policy because it suits India's interest. Our government will be adopting that policies only that are beneficial to India, that are beneficial to India's interest. Okay? So can we define the national interest? If the question comes, what is national interest, then how you will define it? See, to define national interest is very difficult. It is a very dynamic concept. There can't be a one definition of national interest. For India's national interest will be different from that of America. America's national interest will be different from Pakistan, and our national interest also vary. So I must say that national interest is a dynamic concept, but there is some element of national interest. So what are the elements of national interest? The first one being sovereignty. Now what do you mean by sovereignty? Sovereignty means ability of state to make independent decision in world affairs. Like India has all the capacity to make the decision what India wants to take. We are not under any country's influence. We are ready to take any decision we want. Suppose if we want to take decision, we are not going to ask Pakistan, or we are not going to ask America, or we are not going to ask China. India can independently take decision of its own. So it is about the sovereignty that the country is an independent nation and it can take decision on its own. The second element of national interest is territorial integrity. Now what do you mean by territorial integrity? Territorial integrity refers to undue hold of government over monopoly of violence and taxation and well-defined geographical extent. Now here three things are mentioned. Now let me clear the first thing, that is the well-defined geographical extent. Every country has known its territory, like India have its boundary and we know that Indian boundary is this. China has its boundary, China know that it is their boundary. Pakistan know its boundary, America know its boundary, and all government fight for their territorial integrity. No government want to surrender its territory to another country. We have wars for territory because we do not want to surrender the territory to the other nation. At the same time, we want to acquire more and more territory. Okay? You have also witnessed or you have also seen in the newspaper or through the media that various countries are having war for the territorial expansion. All the countries are working in that scenario. So it is the territorial integrity. So whenever government take decision on the basis of national interest, we talk about the sovereignty and we talk about the territorial integrity. Okay? So I think you are done with the concept of national interest. Now again moving back to our definition that what is foreign policy. So foreign policy can be defined as a set of policy adopted by a state with the other state. Now this statement is clear how India is behaving with the other countries in the world scenario and with the non-state actor. Non-state actors means how India is dealing with terrorism, how India is dealing with the environmental problems, how India is dealing with the global issues like poverty and all other things. So it means that India is dealing with the other country as well as with the non-state actors, which aims to protect and promote the national interest of the state. And national interest is, I think you are clear with the term what is national interest. It is a very difficult to tell you what is national interest, but there are two concepts, that is sovereignty and territorial integrity. So I think you have understood what is foreign policy. Now every decade we see a shift in foreign policy, like the foreign policy of India in 1950 is completely different from the foreign policy of India in 2022. So the foreign policy, we see a change with the change of government, or with the change of the years we see the change in the foreign policy. Now take an example, when you were at the age of 12, you were having different goals. Now you are having different goals because we set our priority, we change our goal. At the same time, the country also change its priority and we also change our goal. So every decade we see a shift in foreign policy. Developed world acquire the resources of developing countries. Even in the present era, we are seeing that the developed countries are targeting the developing countries. For take an example, like America is extracting the resources of Africa, and it is known as neo-colonial instrument. Again, like earlier that we were the colony of Britain, but now what they are doing, now they have controlled our mind. They are taking the resources and they are taking the resources to their country, producing the final products and selling it to the Indian market. Now they are influencing our mind, now they are influencing our industries, now they are influencing our companies. So indirectly again they have controlled us. So it is a neo-colonial instrument. I think you are clear with the term neo-colonial instrument. Now take an example of every decade we shift a change in foreign policy. Every country foreign policy exhibits the element of change and continuity. Parts and elements of foreign policy, still we are continuing them and break it just opposite. Now let us take some example that the foreign policy or the principle of foreign policy that we were adopted in 1950 and still we are adopting them or still we are practicing them. Now the first example is Panchasheel. Panchasheel is the first example. Second is non-alignment movement. Third is voice against racism. Fourth, against the nuclear proliferation. And fifth, maintenance of international peace and security in the world. In 1950, India was saying that we are against racism. And even in the 2022, we stand by our principle that we are against racism. Clear? So that our foreign policy has some element of continuity. Now taken some example of elements of break, that in 1950 we had some different approach, but now we have adopted completely different approach. Elements of break can be located on the following premises of Indian foreign policy. The first departure can be observed in terms of shift from the hold of socialism to capitalism. When India got independence, we started inclined towards socialism. Although we were saying that we are the part of non-alignment movement, we are not joining either the socialist bloc nor the capitalist bloc. But somehow our foreign policy or the internal policies of India were influenced by the idea of socialism. But in 2022 or in the present scenario or in the 21st century, we are witnessing that we are moving towards capitalism. We are privatizing everything. So I cannot say that India has become a complete capitalist country, but I can say we are moving towards capitalism. And earlier, India has adopted the principle of socialism. So we are seeing a change in foreign policy by the change of decade. The second departure can be observed when we shift the anti-American attitude to pro-Western attitude. In 1950 or in 1960s, we were having good relation with USSR, the current Russia. At the same time, we were not having a good relation with America. But in the 21st century, we are maintaining a good relation with America as well as with Russia. As India was more inclined towards socialism, we were tilted towards USSR more than America. Therefore, America also tried to maintain a distance from India. But when India opened its economy in 1991, when we have adopted the principle of LPG, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization, America started inclining towards India. As America has seen a huge market potential in India, so they have started investing in India. Therefore, we have seen a departure of Indian foreign policy to a pro-American attitude to an anti-American attitude to pro-American attitude. Clear? India detached itself from anti-American practices and started nurturing close relation with the Western Bloc countries, because in change of international situation, it will be suicidal to ignore the West. So, Indian foreign policy has started moving towards realism than idealism. Earlier, Indian foreign policy was more tilted towards the principle, was more tilted towards the ideology. But now, we are living in a reality and we are maintaining a balance. We are maintaining a balance in a sense that we are having a good relation with the Europe, we are having a good relation with the Gulf country, we are having a good relation with the China, we are having a good relation with the Russia. Now you will say, sir, in China or with China, we have dispute with the border. No doubt there are disputes with China, but still the trade is going on. But still we are trying to maintain a good relation. So it is a realism of Indian foreign policy. The third departure can be observed in terms of our earlier idealism to contemporary realism that I have explained you right now, that how Indian foreign policy has changed. India soon realized that the world moves on the value of realize rather than on idealism. Over the stronghold of socialist and communist countries started showing the sign of pragmatism. The present context, Indian foreign policy has successfully nurtured good strategic relation with all the superpower of world, example US, Russia, Japan, etc. The same thing that I have explained you, that India is trying to maintain a good relation with all the countries in the world, and we are maintaining good relation on the basis of national interest, because it is suiting India's interest to maintain a good relation with all the countries. So, whenever you are studying foreign policy, you should not forget the word national interest, because we are working on our interest, because we are working to gain more and more for India's development. In this context, India's relation with China is worth mentioning, as China has become one of the largest trading partner of India. At the same time, India has nurtured good relation with the Japan. So we are maintaining good relation with the China as well as Japan, as well as Pakistan, USA, European countries. So it reflects the realistic nature of Indian foreign policy. So in this way, we have understood what is foreign policy, what is national interest. We have also understood that how Indian foreign policy have started changing over the decade. The Indian foreign policy in 1950 was completely different from the Indian foreign policy in 21st century. I think all the concepts have been cleared. Hoping to meet you all in the next video. Thank you very much.